Welcome to Brewsers, podcast about beer, coffee, booze, and bruisers. I am your host, Rody John, and today we speak to Jeslen Mishelle. We talk all about how she got into not only MMA and pro wrestling, but her love for the band Tool and so much more. This was such a fun conversation. Again, as you can hear, Jeslen and I could have talked for hours, but I wanted to be respectful of her time. She has such a great story, and she has so many layers to her. So this is definitely one of the most fun interviews I've done. So I look forward to y'all listening to it, and let me know what you think. While you're doing that, make sure to sign up for our newsletter. You get even more information about our guest, you get fun facts, and you get to find out what's happening with your favorite podcast all about beer, coffee, booze, and bruisers. So without further ado, here is Jeslen Mishelle. I would like to welcome the show Jeslen Mishelle. How are you doing tonight?
Hi, John. I'm awesome. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming on. Yeah, I mean, as we were talking about before we recorded this, we've been trying to do this for a while, but again, life gets in the way, and so I'm glad that you were able to come on now.
I think it's the right time for everything when it finally happens.
I think the same thing. Yeah, we were talking about how, sometimes messages get lost, and I just think sometimes the universe is either puts things on hold or allows them to go through whenever they're supposed to, and like you said, whenever they actually do happen, it's the right time.
Absolutely. So here we are.
Exactly. Now, for people listening, kind of paint us a word picture. What's going on around you? Where are you at? What's happening?
I am in a little bubble of prism that circles to the left and to the right simultaneously, and I remain safe in this bubble. And I ascend when I want to, and I don't know what's going on around me. Just depends on what my perspective is that day. But really, I never know.
Okay.
Wait, what just happened?
Do we ever really know what is going on around us at most times?
I don't know what's going on. Never.
Now, normally I ask my MMA fighters and pro wrestlers what their earliest memory of both of them were, but I heard in an interview that you didn't get into either one of them until later in life, but you have had this love for entertainment almost your entire life. What is your earliest memory of seeing and experiencing entertainment and you were like, I want to do something like that?
Wow, you did some research, and I guess I have done enough interviews where that's kind of the point of it all, because it is true. I think it's phenomenal. I got to become a professional athlete in one of the most toughest and scariest sports in my 30s, and as far as pro wrestling goes, most people have been diehard fans since childhood and then got into it, which I definitely wasn't that. But absolutely, I was an athlete, obviously, growing up competitively since age 5 in Junior Olympian. But I really liked performing and entertaining audiences. And that's a better question for me as far as my first memories, because it goes much further back and is much deeper. Other than talent shows starting in first grade, I have this memory of a play that I did in second grade for the Paddington Bear play.
Oh.
And yeah, it's so funny. I don't even think we did it for an audience. I think we just did it. But I remember bringing props and kind of directing all of my classmates. And I wonder if any of my classmates remember that. I haven't mentioned this or thought about it till right now, really, in so long. But such an obscure thought. But I made the living room scene look like the living room. There's no way anyone else would have done it. I mean, at age 7. So.
So
yeah.
Not only were you acting, but you were directing too, right?
Absolutely, because I knew that I kind of was that way with my classmates, because we had a really small class, maybe 5 to 7 kids, K through 8, my whole life, except 8th grade, I moved schools. 5 to 7 students, and I was always kind of like the big sister type. So when it came to plays, I kind of had to boss them around.
Where did you grow up that you had such a small class?
I know. It was like a private school. It wasn't a private school, it was a public school, but it felt like it. In the mountains of California, just south of Yosemite National Park, there's a town where I was born called Mammoth Lakes on the eastern Sierras, but I grew up in that school. As a crow flies, in 30-minute flight over the mountain range on the western Sierras, it's called Big Creek, California.
Okay.
It was paradise. It was paradise. It was a little mountain town on the edge of a mountain, and all we did was climb trees and swim and do sports and chase bears. It was awesome. Jump in snow melt rivers and lakes.
Have you been back since? Is it still as amazing as you remember?
I have been back since numerous times, but we had a really huge, devastating fire a couple of years ago called the Creek. Yeah, the Creek Fire. It was one of the biggest fires California had. And California is known for its summertime wildfires, but this burned down my best friend's childhood home, like the house I spent most of my time in other than my own. And it's like such a treasure of a town that it's really sad to see it devastated, because those pine trees is what made it paradise, just beautiful evergreen. And then now it's just dry sticks.
Oh, it's so sad to hear.
Yeah, everyone was okay though.
Well, that's good. I mean, at least somewhat of a silver lining out of it.
Yeah, I mean, that's what life is about. The destruction of something always provides the opportunity for healthier growth, because forests have to regenerate. The only way pine trees can grow is if the seeds won't grow pine trees unless the temperature is hot enough to burst them open. That's how the ponderosa pines grow.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah, so all those seeds that fell for decades were just sitting there until the fire has opened them up. Now they're going to have a brand new forest. Not my lifetime, but
someone's lifetime.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully, depending on how the Earth allows us to be here.
Right. Well.
Yeah.
Hopefully longer than what the prophecy told me.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have had the prophecies of when the world's supposed to end, and I'm like, well, we're in a preheat oven, so we'll see when it actually decides to pop on it.
Yes, true, huh?
Yeah. So you were talking about your athletics since you were 5 years old. What kind of sports did you kind of keep gravitating toward, and which ones were you participating in that kind of helped you later when it came to, obviously mixed martial arts and pro wrestling?
Right. Well, swimming was what I started when I was 5, and doing our summer swim team. And then all I ever wanted was to do wrestling. There was one girl in our wrestling team through elementary and middle school, and I wanted to do it so bad, but I had to do basketball. So volleyball and basketball was what my focuses were. I really thought I was going to be the first girl in the NBA because I played on the boys team in 7th grade. And that was just like my goal, but it was actually more of like my father's interest, which, parents do the best they can for you. He thought that would be a good thing for me, and he loved basketball. But track and field was for Junior Olympics: hurdles, high jump, and the pentathlon.
Wow!
For such a small school, we had 5 athletes go to the Junior Olympics a few different years.
Wow, that's very impressive.
Yeah.
So did you ever get a chance to actually wrestle or no?
Nope, never. Never did I. I don't think I actually did anything of the sort until 2016 when I stumbled in a jiu-jitsu class. and I went there to learn I was like, maybe I should really learn how to do something for pro wrestling.
Oh yeah. Well, so do you keep up with amateur wrestling at all? Like, it seemed like you were a fan, and I didn't know if you had kept up with it or not.
Amateur wrestling, not at all.
Okay.
I love watching clips on Instagram.
Oh, yes. I was wondering because the way the women's amateur world is getting bigger and bigger. I didn't know if you kept up with it and was happy to see that.
I'm happy to see the exceptional athleticism. They're like superheroes now.
Yeah.
You know, when I watch these matches, like just defying physics. Their bodies are just machines. It's amazing.
Yeah, so true. Well, so you mentioned that you got into jiu-jitsu for pro wrestling. So pro wrestling came first. What was your first introduction to pro wrestling?
So my first introduction to pro wrestling was when I accidentally walked in on a match at a theater, and I was at the theater that particular night because the following night I was doing a performance art piece, kind of like a dance.
Oh.
Yeah, it was utilizing aerial. I had a bungee number that year. It was a horror film festival, so they always had me do these opening acts because I do kind of weird shit like interpretive, creepy stuff. My original YouTube got deleted, and I don't know where those videos are, but they were really cool now that I think about it. It was like, you know, it was before social media was so huge where everybody puts their whole life on social media. So I didn't think that. I just put it on YouTube. And so I don't know where I could find those videos again.
That's weird.
So I went to check out the size of the stage and whatnot, and then there was a pro wrestling show going on, and the crowd was into it, and the wrestlers were into it, and they were engaging with each other, and there was costumes, and there were stunts, and I was like, stunts? And I was like, this is everything I ever wanted. They're entertaining, and they're athletic, and there's costumes.
Mm-hmm.
When was that? That was like in 2010. And
yeah, I was going to say, do you remember what company it was?
You know what? In hindsight, all I do know is it was a backyard company that I would never, nobody would ever recommend going to. But I called them the next day, and they kind of laughed at me. They're like, yeah, sure, just come watch a practice and see if you like it. And I was a little offended by how not encouraging they were, but now I see so many fans, pro wrestling fans are so fanatic that they say they want to get into it, but for the most part, they're not necessarily athletic. And then they show up and quit, like within a week or after the first day. And I'm going to tell you, it is hard on the body. To this day, I don't know anybody who did all 5 bumps on their first day other than me, which is, you know, you're just walking and then you fall back on your back, taking a bump as hard as you can, a flip bump where you flip and land on your back, a handstand where you hold the handstand and then fall flat on your back, a high school boy where you jump as high in the air as you can, kick your feet up, and hit the ground with your back. Like, that's not easy, especially if you've never done it before. It's scary. You know, it's a mental thing. And
tell us about your first bump. What tell us what that feeling is like, because I mean, like you said, nobody normally takes all 5 in the first day. You said you did. What was the very first bump like? Because I imagine after that, I'm not saying it gets easier by any stretch of the imagination, but it's less jarring than the first one. I guess the best way to say it.
Sure. Well, my inspiration was watching the other students taking them, and I'm like, if they can do this, I can do this. So I just stood there in line waiting my turn, watching everyone do theirs and heart racing. And I just remember it felt awkward. Like I didn't land flat, it didn't look impactful. You know, when you watch a match, it's like, oh. But I definitely didn't knock the wind out of me. But I think the 3rd or 4th time I tried one, I held my breath, and that's the worst thing you could possibly do. The impact on the back rib cage when you're holding your breath and trying to do that is not enjoyable whatsoever.
I imagine not.
Yeah, but I mean that's like the hardest thing to learn is